Well, I'd like to welcome you all for dropping in to our special series called Learn the Facts. Now, we want to focus on learning the facts about good health and how to keep you healthy for the rest of your life. And today, I've got someone here very special to me because I know him for quite some time, but it's Dr. Michael Lyon. And Dr. Michael Lyon has had so many years of experience, almost 40 years as a medical doctor. But his experience before becoming a medical doctor, I'm kind of interested in hearing that from you, Dr. Lyon. What motivated you to get into health and caring about people to become a medical doctor to do the most good you can in your life then and now?
Well, it started with me being quite unhealthy as a child. I was born to a mom who probably had diabetes. She certainly did later in life. And I had a lot of health struggles, allergies, asthma. I was in and out of the hospital, multiple surgeries. I eventually developed pneumonia and got very sick, nearly died, and lost a lot of weight during that time. I was quite a heavy kid and always was teased, never was accepted by other kids because of my weight, which is quite unusual back then. And then when I lost weight and went back to school, kids treated me like a person for the first time. And that kind of sparked an interest in health. And soon after that, I started reading books that I got from health food stores and turned my life around. Eventually, that inspired me to want to become a medical doctor so that I could help others, so that I could help others who were stuck, who were kind of in a prison of some sort, bound up by their lifestyle or their body in a way that I knew that they could probably be helped. And so that's been my mission through my nearly 40 years as a medical doctor.
Maybe you could just share a little bit about what's happening as you're the director of the clinic,
Mhm.
and maybe you could tell us the name of the clinic and what's happening there.
For the last maybe 12 years, I've been running a building and developing a clinic that's now, I believe, the busiest obesity treatment center in the world. It's called the Obesity Medicine and Diabetes Institute here in the Lower Mainland in BC, and it's a clinic that has about 15 medical doctors, mostly internal medicine specialists. We have also psychiatrists and psychologists, and we have exercise specialists, mental health professionals, and dietitians, and people with nutrition backgrounds. We have a strong emphasis on helping people with type 2 diabetes turn their lives around. We see many of those people in full remission from their diabetes, which is a very real reality and something that can make a huge difference.
Wonderful. How real easy is it to start losing and trimming down weight?
There are so many diet programs, diet centers, and they all act like they have the answer, right? They have the answer. And it's not that there are no answers, but the fact is that if you want to lose weight, keeping it really simple is definitely the easiest way to do it and is the most effective, the most evidence-based. After working with people for nearly 40 years in this field and over 10 years in a very focused clinic, that 90% of the people that lose a lot of weight do it through meal replacements. I have no other explanation, but it really works. It's easy, it works. People try all kinds of different ways. They finally come back and say, I'm not getting anywhere with my weight loss. What should I do? I say, go on meal replacements. During 12 weeks, the average weight loss is 30 pounds. That's a good chunk of weight.
But the same things that you do at the clinic can be done by everyone
Mhm.
that wants to probably trim down to better health,
Yeah.
like majorly better health. And I remember you were sharing with me before the interview about studies that were done in the United Kingdom. And I was shocked
Mhm.
at hearing what they found with the results of those studies. I wonder, could you share some of that with us?
Yeah, we've long suspected that weight loss has a lot of power to help people with their health. And we've actually learned through many studies that no matter what a person's weight, if they can simply lose about 5 to maybe 10% of their current weight, whatever their weight is, that weight loss brings about very substantial improvements in health. For instance, you're referring to a big study that's going on in the UK that is published as a series of papers known as the direct clinical trials, the diabetes remission clinical trials. And what they've done is they've taken individuals with type 2 diabetes, which is almost always related to excessive weight, and they've put these people on a very simple and easy diet to follow, a diet where they consume nothing but meal replacements for 12 weeks. It's a total dietary replacement where nothing else but meal replacements are consumed. And in 12 weeks, somewhere close to 70% of the participants in that study with type 2 diabetes, at the end of that period, their diabetes is in complete remission, meaning that regardless of what their blood sugars were to start with, they're completely normal at the end of this, off all medications, including insulin. And realistically, what it shows is if you can help people lose weight through a really easy approach, which is to use meal replacements, in this case, nothing but meal replacements, then a good proportion of those people with diabetes will have no more health issues related to blood sugar. They're essentially now in the normal risk category. And that's a big deal because when you are diagnosed with type 2 diabetes, there's a 50-50 chance you'll be dead in 10 years. It's a very serious matter. Since I've been involved in the clinical work, I've started to use meal replacements myself and have discovered that's the only way to lose weight, realistically, for me now. I'll never try any other way. I keep my weight off by careful, choices every day and portion control and not snacking into the evening, all these things that are important for me. But I lose weight by going on meal replacements.
Yeah.
In fact, the end of this week, I'm going to be on meal replacements for a month. I've got 15 pounds of COVID weight that's coming off, and I'm going to be on meal replacements as long as it takes. Last time I lost 20 pounds in a month, so guessing 3 to 4 weeks and I'll have that 15 pounds off.
And of course, definitely in the last 2 years, especially in North America for sure, and other parts of the world, everybody's life was in a way slowed down, but bored, right?
Yeah.
And so bored eating happened, and potato chips and everything because of lots of movie watching and all of that has really created a problem for people. So even more than ever now, it seems to me trimming down is important, which is, I myself wanted to work on trimming down, and I did find it was actually real easy. It wasn't so hard to do. Right?
Yeah, it's a bit counterintuitive that following a meal replacement diet would be that easy, but you have to try it and see. There are big advantages to using a diet where you're relying on meal replacements. Really, meal replacements are concentrated nutrition supplements where it's just nutrition. There's no extra fluff in the meal replacement, it's just nutrition. That's why for a very small number of calories, you get all the protein, vitamins, minerals you need. So it feels satisfying to your body to have that kind of nutrition. It's more satisfying than you'd expect from a 225 calorie meal. If you had 225 calories of a cheeseburger, you'd feel like you just got like a little snack on a toothpick. It would be like nothing. But when you have a 225 calorie meal replacement, you feel satisfied. Especially if the meal replacement contains PGX, which grows in your stomach, and it occupies 5 grams of PGX will occupy a whole liter of stomach volume. So then you actually feel full. So there's a fullness in terms of the volume of the stomach, but there's also a fullness in terms of delivering full nutrition to your body. It's a full meal of nutrition. And then the second thing is the diet is extremely simple, easy, simple. All you do is you make your meal replacement, you consume it. That's it. Simple. So it's very easy to stay on track. And then on top of that, it is affordable because when you replace a meal, you're not eating another meal. You're not eating out. You're not making food at home. You're basically, your food budget is likely going to be less than it was before. And then on top of that, they're basically they're delicious. Like the funny thing about it, you think this would be monotonous. The monotony of the diet, you can say, becomes something that actually cools down the craving centers in the brain. It kind of disconnects your body from that constant need for variety. something that neuroscientists who are studying the brain during weight loss, they've discovered that when you narrow the stimulus coming into the taste buds, it's called stimulus narrowing, you actually cause the centers of the brain that are associated with addiction and craving to kind of go to sleep. They're not really that involved anymore in your food decisions. It's a very simple diet. It doesn't take any rules and regulations and really complicated menus. It's simple. It leaves you feeling very satisfied. Like there's something very almost magical after about a week of meal replacements. You don't really care that much about food. That's the biggest surprise people will get is within a week or so of feeling a little maybe under the weather, a little tired, maybe a little down from being on meal replacements. After about a week, you start feeling good. You probably are by that time sleeping better than you have maybe in years. You have more energy, you have more mental clarity. You just feel like even your vision is better. It's really quite remarkable how good you start feeling. So good that you feel like, you know what, I don't really mind this at all. I'm enjoying it. And the meal replacements, actually, you look forward to them. It may seem kind of monotonous, but that's part of the power of this is that it has a certain amount of monotony that makes it so you're not thinking about food all the time. You start thinking less about food maybe than you have in years.
So, Dr. Lyon, how do you recommend we get started? How do we do that?
What you have to do is you have to be very definite about this. If you want to lose weight, you need to be committed. You need to set a start date and an approximate finish date. You're going to say, well, for the next so many weeks, I'm going to do this. It's what we call focused interval weight loss, where you focus for an interval of time on weight loss. Some people like the spring forward approach, where every spring, after the New Year's is over and everything, the dust is settled from holidays and all that stuff, they take some time, maybe in January or February, and they say, well, for the next so many weeks, I'm going to focus on weight loss. And they're going to, forego going out for dinner, having people over for dinner, treats, snacks, all this stuff. They're going to really focus. And if you just keep sort of that attitude that every so often you're going to focus for an interval of time on weight loss, for one thing, bit by bit, you can get a lot of weight off. During 12 weeks, the average weight loss is 30 pounds. That's a good chunk of weight.
Now that we've trimmed down, we've been able to lose the weight we were hoping to lose. Now, what do we do?
Well, people have to realize that your body wants that weight back. It feels like you've stolen something very important from it, calories that it wants, and it's going to want that weight back. And it will take time. Sometimes it'll take a year or two, but eventually something will happen and you'll start to gradually fall back into old habits. So the key is, first of all, to be aware that your body is going to try to do this to you. It's the way it's designed. It's called the set point. Your body wants to have your weight back to where it was, and it's going to try to kind of pull you back that way. We teach our patients to make sure they can sustain their weight by knowing what they're going to eat when they're done. That's number one. But also, it's not just about what diet are you going to be on. It's your overall habits. Do you eat 1,000 extra calories in the evening from snacking? You're going to have a strategy for that. You're going to have some way of dealing with that. For me, that was my biggest thing. It still is my biggest thing. I set an alarm at 7 p.m. that goes off every day, and it reminds me time to stop eating for the day. And then it's also how do you deal with emotions? If you feel that when you're under stress, you turn to food to escape, or if you feel depressed and you turn to food, or you feel happy and you turn to food, you've got to have a strategy to cope with those emotions other ways. You've got to be aware of that.
But if you really think about it, it's just we just have to not deprive ourselves in a sense, but make a commitment for maybe 3 months to really get a handle on it, and that.
And then, while you're doing this weight loss for 3 months, start learning. How am I going to live now? How am I going to live now so I can keep this weight off? We certainly don't want people to be in a yo-yo diet sort of cycle. But the other reality is, even if you're not a yo-yo dieter, you've done really well with your weight loss and you've kept it off, you're going to have to revisit weight loss again in your life. Everyone will have to revisit weight loss again and again, probably. It is the way it is because your body wants that weight back.
Everything you said makes a lot of sense. And you did say it very kindly, I feel, anyways, and I'm sure everyone listening would feel that. But now sometimes we need to get a very straight why we need to do this. Why do we need to do this? Tell us straight, Dr. Lyon.
Well, there's no doubt that if you look at excessive weight gain, it's probably the driver of most of the health problems in our society today. Most people will die from cardiovascular disease. Most of that is weight related because it's related to diabetes or prediabetes. A condition we call metabolic syndrome comes from weight gain. Then you, of course, have type 2 diabetes, which is becoming the greatest epidemic in the whole world. And that's driven entirely by weight gain. If a person has type 2 diabetes and they haven't gained weight, they probably don't really have type 2 diabetes. They have something more like type 1, where their pancreas has been destroyed. So virtually you can say type 2 diabetes is weight gain. And then high blood pressure, and even cancers and dementia and musculoskeletal issues like osteoarthritis. These are driven by weight problems. Just about every health issue that our healthcare system grapples with is weight related. And the thing that's, I would say, very good news is to see substantial improvements in almost any health related condition or weight related condition. Almost every one of those conditions will improve dramatically by as little as 5% weight loss. Maybe even more, like 2.5% weight loss. So if you take your current weight and you take 5% of that weight, that's about the amount of weight that a person can lose quite easily on their own and with, say, meal replacements in a focused interval, and end up, if you can keep that weight off, see significant improvements in health.
Well, Dr. Lyon, one of the things that we've noticed all our lives is there's all kinds of weight loss programs, and even the idea that you can exercise your weight away. What's your thought about all of this?
Well, that's what I used to think. I'm still an avid exerciser. I love to exercise. At in my mid 60s, I still mountain bike and do everything I used to do. But I've studied the science, and I've also learned from personal experience that you cannot outrun your fork. This is what we often say, because when you exercise, you burn a few calories, but if you're not careful, you're going to eat more than those calories you burned very quickly. So that's number one. And also, as you get older, your body resists weight loss through exercise. That's one of the things that science has really shown us.
Uh, can you give us an example of your own life and how you came to realize that excessive exercise would not accomplish weight loss?
Yeah, I spent my 20s training for marathons and triathlons and things like that. I was extreme, to the point where I had stress fractures in my legs and things like that at times. So I went to an extreme, and I believe that exercise was so important for my weight because I used exercise as an excuse to overeat, basically, so that I could eat anything I wanted. And it worked in my 20s, and it sort of worked in my 30s. Um, I ended up on a long cycling trip when I was around just 50. I went with my wife. We joined a group of people. We cycled all across northern Italy through the Alps. And my cycle computers would say at the end of the day, I burned 12,000 calories typically. And so I thought I can eat anything I want. By the end of that 2-week trip where I cycled 12,000 calories a day, I gained 5 pounds and I couldn't wear my clothes for months. And at that point I realized it's true. You cannot outrun your fork. You can't outcycle your fork. If you eat whatever you feel like when you're getting older, you're going to gain weight. No way around it.
Does it mean that we should just reduce calories by meal replacements and we don't need to concern ourselves about exercise?
Well, you can say exercise is probably the single most important thing you can do for your health. So I'm in no way saying that people shouldn't exercise. But when it comes to weight loss, for those that struggle with their weight, if you overdo the exercise when you're really cutting calories, it cuts into your success. You're possibly going to go into a starvation mode where your metabolism goes down. You might end up getting overly hungry where you end up falling off the diet. And it just seems that it's a lot easier if you reduce your exercise to something modest during the time of weight loss.
There is huge changes in your health. So if you're diabetic or high blood pressure, but is it just like when we talk about losing weight? What is it that is the most dangerous for us in our health as far as fat?
Well, when you gain weight, the first place that weight is gained is in the fat stores around the organs in the belly, and also the liver itself. The liver and later the pancreas begin to absorb that fat and have a displacement of healthy cells with fat cells.
Well, is there some relationship to diabetes
Yeah,
and this?
yeah, that's
Is
the.
that what it is?
You can say that whether you have type 2 diabetes or not is almost entirely defined by how much fat is in your liver and later how much fat's in your pancreas. And when you lose weight, the reason why a 5 or 10% weight loss is almost miraculous is the first weight to be lost is the fat in the liver and the fat in the pancreas and the fat around the organs inside the abdomen. And that's the fat that causes almost all the detrimental effects from weight gain is the what we call visceral fat. And the fat in the liver and pancreas could be considered part of the visceral fat.
Yeah, and well with the liver, that you get fat on the liver, but there is also the danger of hardening of the liver or something of that nature, right?
Yeah, eventually 10% of people with fatty liver, which is probably about a quarter of our population right now, has some degree of fatty liver, but about 10% of those people will eventually go on to serious liver disease. They'll develop cirrhosis of the liver, which is where the liver is replaced by scar tissue, and they might develop a primary cancer of the liver, hepatocellular carcinoma. So when you lose 30 pounds, you're losing a lot of fat from your liver and from your pancreas, and it literally transforms your body's insulin sensitivity and it restores the size and function of the pancreas so that there's more insulin producing cells again. Just 30 pounds of weight loss, 90% likely to be in full remission from diabetes. So all this time we've been searching for the cure for diabetes, and here it is. It's in weight loss.
Yeah, so in reality, how much more evidence do we need to
Yeah,
trim down? We're going to trim down, feel better.
yeah,
We look better. We have more energy. We have a greater spring in our step to keep up with our children or
yeah,
grandchildren.
yeah,
And what would make a better life than that?
yeah.
Nothing. So 3 months, I'm committed. I'm with you on that, Dr. Lyon. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. And maybe as a parting encouragement, I would encourage everyone to really know that this is what science says, that you can be the healthiest you can be at any size, and that small changes can make a world of difference, can create a whole new world for you in the future. So a little bit of weight loss, a little bit of honest looking at your habits, like how much snack foods are you eating in the evening hours. Maybe those are the small things. They're actually really big. You can make a few of those small changes, take a few steps in the right direction. It can open up a whole new world of health for you. So that would be my encouraging word, that good health is not that far away. It may not even be 3 months away. If you're willing to do a couple weeks even, or a month, for that person, maybe it's a good starting point. If you're a little bit afraid, a little bit hesitant to do something that sounds kind of radical like that, it's really not. It's really actually a very comfortable thing to do, and you might find it encouraging enough that you'll embark again another time in your life.
Thank you. That was a wonderful way to conclude today. Thank you, Dr. Lyon.